What's going on? We're back at it again with another episode of Convos with Dr. Andy, with your boy James and Dr. Andy, because it really wouldn't be CWDA without his ass sitting across from me. He does have a haircut. I don't know if anyone has seen it recently, but it is much shorter and not Nordic-esque as it was previously. He was going to invade a sovereign nation.
I'll get it back. Don't worry.
With it all tied up. So today what we're going to talk about is less to Gen Pop, less to regular health promotions, and more. I mean, it is connected, but more at coaches, right? More at coaches specifically that are in areas of influence. So your small group classes, your large group classes, your gym owners, your gym managers, also even your personal trainers, right? And then everyone that's kind of in and around there, chiropractors, DPTs, massage therapists, etc. But more specifically, what we want to kind of dive into with these individuals is that something that's pretty common in the health and wellness space is for people to take others' information and claim it as their own. So people to take, oh man, these step ups, these are my variation that I came up with in my small gym of 200 people in my 40,000 person city, and I am more important than everyone else. And at the end of the day, it's just not true. And we all know it to not be true. And everyone in the industry also knows that it's not true. But sometimes members or clients or patients are none the wiser. And so, the interesting thing is that none of your patients or clients give a fuck if you came up with something. They really don't. What they care about is, can you get them to the goal that you said that you were going to aid them in getting to? What they care about is, can you be the facilitator to help them get there? But remember, you are a guide on the side facilitating. You cannot do the work for them. You cannot force them to eat. You cannot force them to not binge. You cannot force them to do mobility or to take warm-up seriously when you're at the chiropractic office. You cannot force them to do any of that. You can only lead by example and try to facilitate. And so we wanted to kind of dive into this, the intricacies of it, where it comes up, and how you can combat it as a coach so that you're a better coach than you are an ego protector, because that doesn't serve anyone at the end of the day, right? And everyone's shit does stank.
Yeah, I mean, James, as far as we'll kind of we'll go into the coaching realm first, because you were a coach, you are a coach. I was a full-time coach, especially through CrossFit. Mm-hmm. I saw this not only within myself, but I definitely see this in others. More hyper aware of it, and it's probably because I had an issue with it, which is why I'm more sensitive to it. Mm-hmm. But whether I did it from a malicious standpoint, I did want subconsciously to have people look up to me. Mm-hmm. Right. I think we all do. We all want to be accepted, heard.
Yeah.
Right. So just deep down, yes, there's a part of me that like wanted people to see me, view me, go to me as like this all-knowing, or I say all-knowing, right? This highly intelligent, can go to me for anything. I'll figure it out individual, especially within that concentration of coaching. Mm-hmm. And you kind of said it perfectly. I heard this years ago, right? But I keep hearing it on some of these financial commercials on TV. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And I think everyone can resonate with that. And that's so true, especially in a role, such as coaching or even as a chiropractor. People appreciate the fact that, both myself and also Dr. Brian, who's in the office, we sit them down, we kind of walk them through like, hey, this is how we can help you. Mm-hmm. Right. They do care about the how, but they really care if, mm-hmm. right? If we can help them, if we can get them the results that they're looking for and hit their goals. And so we just take the time to explain how to, right? In case there are hiccups, we can explain through that. Mm-hmm. So with coaching, but again, back to chiropractic, sorry, we don't placate or pretend that we came up with a lot of these things that we're communicating to our patients, mm-hmm. right? We're using other people's works to then bring the message of health and the care to those patients. So yes, we're the ones delivering, the care to them, but we had to get trained on how to do that. Mm-hmm. We only just added our little intricacies of how we deliver that. So through the adjustments, through communication and all that. So with coaching in particular, when I was a coach, I had to emulate my coaching first off of somebody. That's what most people do. right? Unless you're the very first person to invent something. Most of us emulate through somebody, right? Or through a group of people. And so I emulated off my first coach up in New York, who's a phenomenal coach, right? He had a very polarizing personality, and being my personality type, I tended to gravitate towards taking on his role, not only through what he coached mechanistically, but also his demeanor. And only years later, through friends have communicated to me, they're like, oh, you really came into your own as a coach, right? The moment you started to just really have confidence in yourself and who you are and what you bring to the table, not copy and paste what I had learned from. And all that's just part of the journey. Like, I had to consciously work on, trying to give the same product that my mentor was giving that I could give to my patients. And over time, I finally got to a place where, like, yeah, I was totally confident and competent in what I was delivering, that I could then pour my personality into it. And then I really started showing my careness, my true personality when I coached. And I didn't give a crap if it came from me, if it came from my prior coach, if it came from, a book that I was reading, or a seminar or a conference or a training that I went to. It didn't matter. Like, people might look at my resume, in particular from CrossFit. It has CrossFit level 1, level 2, level 3, and it has a bunch of the specialties from back in the day. And people are like, holy crap, you had a lot of certifications. Big whoop, right? Like big whoop. The biggest thing that I got out of that stuff was the meat and potatoes information that those instructors taught me. All my certifications, I think, in CrossFit are pretty much expired.
I think they all are outside the L1.
I think I have to go back and get my L1 if I wanted to, because I think it's after.
I
think it's 5 years.
Really?
I think it's 5 years. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And then that's L3 was 3 years, which I didn't learn about that until.
Oh, dude, I remember when you came to Brookhaven, and I looked up all your stuff, and it was like lapsed.
Well, can you blame me? I went to chiropractic school for 4 years.
Makes sense.
But anyway, I digress. So, like, it doesn't matter what that. Not once did I go up to a client who asked, like, well, what do you know? And I pull out my resume and say, well, see all these certs that I have? No, it would just be a conversation of like, well, I mean, hey, I've seen this work. I've tried this myself. Or even I have not tried this myself, but I've seen so-and-so coach this. And based on what they're, explaining, this makes sense. Let me help you give this a try and see if it works. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, let's try something else. And it's all problem solving. They don't care whether or not it came from out of my mouth,
correct,
the original horse's mouth. They don't care. They truly care if it works. Now, and I'll say this too, and James, you can speak on this as well. But if you oftentimes, because this happens in chiropractic a ton, I'll tell patients, hey, give this a shot, right? Try maybe this supplement, right? I don't like to give a whole lot of supplements out, but try this supplement, try this change in your diet. I'm going to try this new technique, whatever it is on you. Oh, where'd you learn this? Oh, I learned it from so-and-so, right? Or I learned it back in school, whatever it was, right? It did not come just from the straight catalog of, Dr. Andrews, invention. And they like that. They like the fact that you can say, hey, I learned this from a trusted source. And in coaching, oftentimes oftentimes members, athletes will appreciate you more, and they'll come back to you more, knowing that you're not going to try to mislead them down a rabbit hole that you're trying to figure out on the fly, and you're lying about it, making it seem like it's your own when it's not. So if someone comes to you and say, hey, I don't know, but I'm be willing, you know what, give me a weekend, I'm going to go research it and I'll come back with you. Or say like, hey, I've never tried this, but if you check out so-and-so's material, they have a good walk step-by-step guide to do this. They're not going to, some people might end up leaving your gym maybe and being like, well, they didn't teach this stuff, so I'm going to go to a gym that does. You know what? They may refer people over to you in whatever discipline you're in, because they trust that you're not so ego involved, that you're not afraid to lose people, because they may want something different than what you can offer. It's that trust value. People leave our office on occasion, for sure, all the time. Right. But we get referrals often from people that have left the office. The reason for leaving, that's sometimes we get an answer of like, hey, financial, hey, I moved, I just kind of, life happened and I can't come in anymore, but they still refer patients in even though they don't come. People that leave the gym, right? If they had a good experience, even though that you're not what they're looking for, you were honest with them, they'll leave and they'll refer people to you. So I don't know if you had similar experiences with your coaching background, but and you can elaborate if you have or not.
Yeah, I mean, I would say sometimes on sales calls for one-on-one training, somebody that's not a fit, right, or doesn't want what we offer, doesn't like the vehicle in which we use to get there, right? Because I'm not going to compromise and give you my personal phone number and let you have 24/7, 365 access to me. Like that's not what you're going to get for a couple $100 a month, right? And so sometimes I've gotten on calls where people are like, "That's what I want." I'm like, "Cool, I can give you 5 names and numbers of people that would probably be down for that." But like that's not me. And I'm only doing you a disservice if I tell you it's me, because I'm just going to get pissed off when you cash in on the thing that I said that you could, because I don't want that relationship, period, end of story. Right. Same thing with, when I was at CrossFit Brookhaven, right? It was more me running the gym. Owner wasn't really involved, as we all know. And that's okay. I mean, that's what I was there for. Mm-hmm. But there would be people that came in that wanted one-on-one training or two-on-one training. And here's the thing. We weren't allowed to facilitate it through the facility from the way that the owner and I had our arrangement set up. Like if I wanted to do that, even if I wanted to do that on my own, like splits and cuts and all kinds of stuff had to happen. And so, I just kind of stayed away from it. And I was like, hey, we're not the place, but here's this studio, and this studio that were within 5 minutes of our front door that you can go to. We can get one-on-one and two-on-one training. Absolutely. I think the same thing is, goodness, I was having a conversation with a client that, and an old member of the gym, right, that had a slap tear. You and I talked about this
at Brookhaven.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Had a slap tear, or something close to, right, in the hip, and needed some help. And I was like, well, first of all, I can't give you imaging, so you need to go get that. First of all, and then second of all, outside of the imaging, if it's past this grade or if it's past this severity, you're gonna have to see someone for it. I can tell you hypothetically, right, mechanically, what would make sense, right, tissue wise, what would make sense, but also I can't prescribe that. I'm not a physical therapist, so I'll be happy to tell you what I do to try to strengthen my body to have me not get in that position that you're in right now. But I can't tell you that this will do that for you,
right,
at the point that you're at. And so, like, you got to go see somebody, and I'm happy to refer out. And I think that actually increases trust even more, right? It also makes you be taken seriously. If you're the guy or the girl that always has the answer when someone asks a question, what is ATP? Can you give me, can you tell me what ATP is? And can you tell me how that's related to cholesterol and macronutrient composition of your foods on the go when you're sleeping 4 hours? Like, if you have an answer for everything, chances are you don't know the actual answer.
Yeah. 100%.
You don't. There's even things, MSK, that I know you have an abundance of understanding of, that you will still not in the moment knee jerk out a response, because you're like, well, hold on. I have this amount of information. I don't have full scope to give you an accurate recommendation. So you qualify with could be potentially this, or this, right? Based on what you're saying, I'm thinking it's maybe A or D, but I couldn't tell you definitively without looking at radiology, right? Or putting my hands on, or a combination of a few things, seeing how you move, etc. Like, I can't tell you for sure, but I would probably say to look in these areas and then look at your options and go from there, right? I think that that's important, right? I think that that's the most important thing, admitting that you don't know everything. Because at the end of the day, right, when all is said and done, if you're winning as a leader, as a coach, running a team, you should be pointing to everyone else and raising them up and uplifting everyone around you and giving them praise for making this happen. But if everything falls, or at any point shit goes sideways, you better point those thumbs at yourself. Because ultimately, you as a gym owner, the head coach for an online company, the chiropractor in a facility where the only people that are really trusted are the chiropractors in a chiropractic office, the buck stops with you, whether you're a business owner or not. If you are the doctor that is giving prescription of movements, of modalities, of care plans, like, you are responsible for not leading people astray for your own gain or for your own ego. CrossFit does it. a little too much and can get away with it because it's kind of culty and you have to be in the club to even know that that happens, right? In other places, you lose patience. You lose patience and you lose clients because you try to act like you know everything. But I can tell you this, that if someone asks you something that maybe on a regular day you should know, Andy, as a chiropractor, if you just say, hey, I'm not sure because of these factors, I can't tell you definitively, most people are going to take that to mean, damn, he actually does care about my health. He actually does care about my progression. He's willing to tell me when he doesn't know. The very few, small, select people will say, well, he doesn't know it all, so I'm leaving. That's okay. Those are not the people you want to be working with anyways, because they can never be wrong either.
Right. Yeah, perfect example. I had a patient, a good buddy, come in a few weeks ago, and this is something that I just learned, is that there's a it makes sense though. There's a genetic factor component that ceases your hair to grow to a certain length. So literally, so your hair will stop. Yeah, I mean, I had never heard or read that before, so that was something new. But when I stopped and thought about that for a second, instead of being like, well, no, that's not true, it was because I'd never heard it. It was, oh, well, that conceptually makes sense. If we have so many, everything in our gene pool, right, is yes, what we're born with, but then what also like our environmental factors and lifestyle attribute to changing. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. So, but for him, he made a comment. He's like, well, I'll figure out, I'd ask you this because, you know everything. And he didn't do that from an ego standpoint, not trying to build me up, but him and I have had many conversations where he's built that trust to truly believe that I would either have knowledge of it or be able to help them out. But I literally said, oh, dude, nope, I didn't know that. You taught me that today. So, and for him, he didn't look at that and be all perplexed and be like, oh, how could you shoot? Well, what else don't know?
How could you not, doctor? You don't
right.
know anything.
Right. So that was just, no, I didn't know. I didn't know what I don't know, and admitted it. And I think with coaching, because again, James, you and I see this on repetition. And I think it's because, yes, in chiropractic, in my profession, there are a lot of egos, and it does hurt our profession in the grand scheme of things, where, if I lose a patient to another chiropractor, that's bad. It's like, no, in my opinion, and I might be one of the only ones that think this way, but in my opinion, if someone chooses to go get healthcare from another chiropractor, good healthcare from another chiropractor over me, I will gladly find another profession to do if everyone is getting seen by a good chiropractor, but they're just not choosing me. I'm okay with that. I'll go find another profession. My ego does not need to be stroked that I need to be the only person that people come to see or come to ask. Same thing with coaching. I want to help those that want to help themselves. I don't need to be this mecca, this deity that knows everything and has an answer for everything. Because to be quite frank, I mean, I don't. I don't, right? So you and I do this podcast because we want to just instill hopefully free information into as many people as we can, albeit other people know way more than us in some categories.
For sure.
We just try to do our best to be a vessel of information for those to help. There's no personal gain out of this outside of we just love to do it. And so coaching, like you said, good coaches, good leaders in general are quick to point fingers and praise, right? When there's positivity, and then they take their time to point their thumbs back at themselves when, shit starts going downhill or negative, and all of us love in sports the captain of the football team or the leader of the baseball team, whatever sport it is, right? Who own losses, right? But then I don't want to say deflect, but just praise those in a win. Hey, the team had a great effort, right? The coaches, all that stuff. And coaches in CrossFit, same thing. Like if you find something really cool out there that someone else is doing and you want to implement that in your gym, sweet. But give that place where you found that resource credit. It does not make you less of a coach, less of an individual, or less of an intellect. It doesn't. It instills more trust within. And I'm speaking from experience. I've been in gyms where I've been a member, and it just I get the wrong vibe of this person. Just all they want is for people to stroke their ego. They can be the greatest coach in the world. I'm going to walk out that door, and I'm probably not going to come back.
Facts.
And if I feel that way, if you feel that way, James, then probably more so than not, the regular population, the Gen Pop feels the same way. For my encouragement to a lot of the CrossFit coaches out there, because I want to kind of hone in on them, because I was a really young CrossFit coach, and I wish I kind of heard this, is that just don't be afraid to give out credence and credit where it's due.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it'll take you a lot further than if you're the one who's trying to like bury all of these people that have helped push you or built you to where you're at.
Yeah. Stop trying to hide the ball.
Exactly.
Give credit where it's due.
It does not make you any less. You'll end up being a better coach for it, because you won't have to worry about people finding out all of your skeletons, so to speak, in your closet, right? Or under the rug, however you want to put it. And you'll just be better for it. If you don't have to believe that you're the only one that can come up with good stuff, you're going to learn so much more and be able to give so much more back.
Yeah. And on the other side, if you do believe that you're the only one that is omnipotent, omnipresent, etc., the problem is that you'll never learn from anyone.
Yeah.
You'll never allow yourself to learn, because you won't be open-minded enough to understand that someone else could teach you something. And so I think it's ego is a wonderful thing. Ego is absolutely a wonderful thing in a lot of scenarios. I think that people conflate having ego, right? Having a larger belief of self as always a negative. I think that it's a negative when it plays against the betterment and moving forward, the progression of everything that you're trying to do, right? Because it does serve you, right? 100%. In business, getting huge, it serves you. You have to believe that you're powerful enough that your team can do it and stand against anyone to get there, or you won't get there. But there is a point where along that way, you got to understand that you don't know it all. Sol Sean, that does all the gymnastics seminars for, like, does very well gymnastics seminars for
really
CrossFit.
Really good coach.
Amazing coach. Guess what? Also admits that he doesn't know everything. And he is one of the most proficient bar muscle up cats that I've ever seen in my life, to include the calisthenics guys that are not in CrossFit. And he is just time under tension, can do just about anything gymnastics wise. But the way that he communicates is not with ego. The way that he communicates is not with, I know it all and you know nothing.
It's a place of humility. Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, you can look at any discipline, especially martial arts specifically, where the people that can take your neck and snap you in half are usually the people that are not speaking. They're not pointing a thumb. They're pointing a finger and lifting people up. Hey, great armbar. Hey, great triangle. Hey, great side control. Hey, great mount, right? Hey, great strike. Yeah, position your foot here, you'll get more power, right? They're doing that. They're not saying, look at me, I can choke you all out. Because everyone knows that.
Peacocking.
Everyone already knows that. Everyone already knows that if you take their neck, they're done. You don't have to tell anyone, right? Same way if Froning or Frazier walks into a gym, everyone knows that they're going to destroy everyone in the gym. They don't need to say it. And in fact, they don't say it, because then it would just be ego to the wrong direction. So hope that helps. If it doesn't, that sucks. Thanks for your time regardless. These are on YouTube every week. And we've been kind of switching between 6 and 9 p.m. releases on Wednesdays. Just because the algo, haven't figured out which one is better. Some episodes hit, some episodes take a few days. So it'll be out on Wednesday regardless, though, in the evening. And we'll see you all next week. Peace.